A lot of people first year backcountry. That's fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and get started. It's 5:05. Hey everyone, I'm Jen Gurecki. I am the CEO of Coalition Snow. Really happy to be here with you this evening for the first installation of the second season of Backcountry Beta that Catherine and I started doing last year. It's great to see people here. I know it's 2021, Zoom fatigue, all the things. I don't know, but everything's weird and it's still nice to be able to connect with people and learn. So thanks everyone for being here. For those of you who are not familiar with Coalition Snow, if you're kind of new to what we're doing here, Coalition is a women-owned and operated ski and snowboard brand. We like to say that we're sort of like the rebel feminists of the industry. And so I'm always impressed when other people want to work with us. So Catherine, TREW Gear, big shout out to you. We will be holding these events on the first Wednesday of every single month, and we have a great season for you. If you ever have any questions about this event or ideas for speakers or topics, you can certainly just send Catherine or myself a message in the clubhouse. That's where you can find us. And Catherine's going to be introducing our speaker, Shannon, in just a minute. But before we get into that, I'm 100% going to plug the sale that we're getting ready to do, because that's my job, because yeah, I have to make sure that people know about it. What's really exciting about this sale is that you get to listen to me play viola, which might seem sort of random, but if you think about the idea of first chair, like first chair skiing, first chair symphony, I don't know if that resonates. Sarah and I actually went and made a ridiculous video, and that's included in the sign up because you get to be a VIP member. So if you're looking for new things, skis, snowboards, cute hoodies, whatevs, sign up for the sale, putting the link in the chat. And how this is going to work is that Shannon's going to be talking about different topics. As she moves through the topics, there'll be time for Q&A. So when she sort of opens that up, if anybody has questions, you can either pop your questions in the chat and I'll help manage that, or you can unmute yourself and just ask a question. So feel free to use the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself when Shannon's ready to take questions. And I think that's kind of all that I want to say right now. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Catherine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine Donnelly. I work at TREW Gear. We're based out of Portland, Oregon, but I am now living in Maine. So yeah, pretty much what Jen said. We're just super excited to kick off our event series for the season again. Last year was such a blast. We had really great feedback, and yeah, we're back and hopefully better than before, even though we were pretty great last year.
I mean, we were really good last year. I feel like I don't know. I feel like right now I'm more tired than I was a year ago. So I don't know if we're going to be better.
I know. We're going to have fun.
It's going to be good enough.
I kind of just walked myself into a corner there. Anywho, so TREW Gear, we make some pretty fantastic outerwear. I might be biased, but with our origins in the PNW and Mount Hood as our home mountain, we really work to protect everybody from the elements, because we love skiing some Cascade concrete in the rain or the snow or really any weather year round. And yeah, that kind of brings me right into our speaker and leader of the event tonight, Shannon. She is actually a new athlete to the TREW team, and we are super excited to have her because she kind of rocks at everything. Like, I feel like that sounds like an exaggeration, but I might just pass it off to her because it's kind of a long list. So she's a skier, avid backcountry enthusiast, and just all around rad human being. And yeah, I'll let her kind of take the reins from here.
Hey everybody, how's it going? So yeah, I am a skier. I've been skiing my whole life. My mom got me on skis when I could walk, basically. So like 1987. I'm 36, so I'm not young anymore. I went to an event, a mountain bike event last weekend for women, which was rad, and we built trail mountain bike stuff. And I literally felt like the oldest person there. I wasn't, but I definitely was like, wow, I'm not young anymore. Anyways, moving on from that, I own Girls with Grit. I'm a coach, a 4-season coach. I coach skiing, mountain biking, paddleboarding, and trail running. Obviously, we're going to talk about skiing today. I'm also a photographer. I've been doing that for about 15 years professionally. I'm also a writer through my company, Mirror Media. I do stuff with K2, Eddie Bauer. In the past, TREW. I write for a local magazine full time. And I also have 2 little boys. I have a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. I like just passed them off to dad like a minute before I got on the call. I was like, here's dinner. So yeah, I do a lot of things, but everything I do, I love. And I feel pretty blessed that that is my life. So today I really want to talk to you guys about backcountry skiing. It's definitely become extremely popular in the last few years, especially since COVID hit. You know, as a coach, I get a lot of women and men coming to me and asking me how to get into backcountry skiing. And my first question to them, which I want you guys to ask yourselves, is do you have the skills to be in the backcountry mentally and physically, right? The reason I say mentally and physically is because when you're out there and you get into a situation, are you mentally going to be able to handle the danger of that situation and get out of it if you need to, right? So first thing I always ask everyone is, can you ski or snowboard a black diamond or a double black diamond run in your local ski resort? Do you have the ability? Okay. And I'm not just saying on a really good day when it's like perfect conditions. I'm saying, can you ski it in maybe the worst conditions, right? Because when you're in the backcountry, something to think about is that depending on the time of day you go, depending on the sun exposure, if there's shade, if there's been a freeze thaw pattern, you could go on one run, you could go from skiing like the most epic pow of your life to like skiing some of the crappiest, hardest snow conditions of your life in one run, okay? So that being said, also add into that the fact that you could, what if an avalanche happens? What if someone sets one off above you? What if you set one off? Do you know what to do if that happens? Do you have the ability to act in the proper way to safely get yourself out of that? And so the main thing I do as a coach is help people figure out if they have the physical ability to actually be out there in the first place. Because yes, it's a really great place to go and adventure and get away from people. It can be, obviously breathtaking. It's so nice to be out in nature and not have chairs and all that fun stuff out there. So you're more out in nature. But do you have the ability to be out there and to get through situations that could arise? So that's the first question I want you guys to ask yourselves, okay? And having that mental and physical strength, right? To not freak out if something happens or freeze, right? Like the last thing you want to do if something bad happens is freeze and then not do anything, okay? So what we teach people is to practice those skills inbounds to get down that icy mogul hill, to get down, the trees and go in the trees, with somebody you trust, right? On a day that it's not very good snow, so that you figure out how to get through it, to do a jump turn, to do a kick turn, to get out of, a really crappy situation. Like I put myself and my clients in situations that aren't ideal, and I show them how to get out of it. And it might not be pretty, and it might not be fast, but they get out of it. And they then gain the skills and the confidence to get out of those situations. Because everything in life we do, right, is 90% mental, 10% physical. So if we think we can do it, you're more than halfway there to actually accomplishing it, okay? So that's the next thing you need to ask yourself. Then we need to figure out snow conditions. And like I said, one run can be the best all the way down to the worst. And I've had that happen on more than one time I've been out in the backcountry. Something to also think about is the time of day you go out. As the day progresses, like even though if you go in the morning, let's say it's a beautiful bluebird day, you're like, I'm gonna go in the backcountry. Okay. The wind is not high. It's cool, which is good, right? Because when it's cool, it's less likely you're gonna have avalanche problems, okay, depending on other items, okay. But as the day progresses and it warms up, the snow is gonna change. And even just skiing from the sun into the shade, that snow is gonna change just because one portion's in the sun and one's in the shade, okay? So we need to be attentive of those things and not just haul buns into the shade thinking it's going to be the same conditions as the sun, right? Because it could be totally different. And this especially happens on warm days. Like I've had some real good yard sales skiing in different not sun exposed areas because I was not thinking about the fact that the snow was going to change possibly, okay? The next thing you also want to ask yourself before you go in the backcountry, which this might seem stupid, but do you know how to use all your touring gear? Do you know how to use your touring bindings? Do you know how to switch from ski mode to tour mode? Do you know how to put your bindings on? Or your skins on? Do you know how to put your skins on in the wind? Do you know how to take your skins off in the wind without getting them all stuck together? And then do you know how to use, most importantly, your shovel, your probe, and your beacon? So we will kind of move on to some of those items in a little bit as far as using those items properly, but you need to be able to use all those things properly and efficiently before you go out in the backcountry. You don't go out to the backcountry to learn how to use them. You learn how to use it beforehand, then you go out there, okay? The next question you have to ask yourself before you decide to go out in the backcountry is, do you have a buddy that you can tour with? Because you never go in the backcountry without a buddy, right? Everyone knows that. You want to make sure that they have a high level of skiing or boarding, okay? Same thing, they need to be very good, okay? Same as you, right? As far as like being able to get out of a sticky situation. Did they know how to use their backcountry tools? And quickly, confidently, and efficiently? And do you trust them with your life? That's a big one, right? Like, oh, I saw so-and-so at the chairlift, I met him and he wants to go in the backcountry with me. That's cool. Like, do you trust him with your life? Because that's really what we're talking about, right? Like, if I were to get in an avalanche and my buddy, which 99% of the time is my husband, who I ski with a lot, or one of my really good friends who co-coaches with me, like I trust them with my life. If I get in a situation and I need to get dug out, I trust them to have the ability to find me and then figure out where I am and dig me out, okay? If you can't say that about the person you're in the backcountry with, you should not be in the backcountry with them, okay? Because stuff can go from really, really, really good to really, really, really bad very quickly. And I'm not talking just about avalanches. I'm talking about weather. Weather can change in a heartbeat. You know, I've been on a mountain before where we looked at the long-term forecast for the day. It said blue skies. It said no storm. Literally between 1 minute and 20 minutes later, we were in a complete whiteout on the top of a mountain, did not know up or down. And it took us about a half hour to figure out how to even get down. Okay. So, and those are people, we are like fully experienced professional backcountry skiers that have been doing this for like 15, 20 years. Okay. So this is something you want to make sure you're not dragging your buddy along. You guys are equal and you guys are a team and you work together. Okay. And then are you prepared for the worst? Do you have the tools you need in case of an emergency? Do you have an inReach? Do you have a first aid kit? The first aid kit, the big items I always have with me when I'm in the backcountry. I have a tourniquet and I have a sterile compression bandage. And then I always have an emergency Mylar thermal blanket. And then I always have food and water, always, because if you get stuck out there, you want those items, right? Especially if you're stuck out overnight. So, yeah, that's kind of the questions I want you to ask yourself before you even head out into the backcountry. So at this point, do we have any questions? Are there questions in the chat here?
We don't have any questions yet,
Okay.
but I think we should just give it 1 second because that was so much information in a
Sorry.
good way. No, I don't want you to apologize. Please, I actually took everything. I'm going off your notes and I posted it in the chat for everybody so they can see it.
Awesome.
Everything that you said, that's 100% the things that people should think about, whether it's your first time going out to the backcountry or like you said, you're an experienced professional like yourself. So let's just give it a minute. Does anybody have any questions on what Shannon just covered right now? You can pop it in the chat or you can unmute yourself if you have a question related to anything she just said. Do you ever wonder how long is an appropriate amount of time for silence? Or do you think like how uncomfortable? I just always wonder. Sydney has a great question here in the chat. Sydney would like to know what is in your personal first aid kit. So you talked a little bit about, the tourniquet and sterile compression bandage and the blanket. Are there other things that you would recommend that people keep in their first aid kit?
So as far as like big items, I mean, I always have like band-aids and like alcohol and, gloves because I'm always the one that ends up bleeding. I don't know how. It's always some dumb little cut and I end up bleeding everywhere and I always use my gloves on myself. But, those are the main things, like having a tourniquet and then those, those sterile compression bandages, the one that you can shove into a wound that will actually like expand and like pack a wound. If you did get like a big gash or somebody had a big gash that you needed to stop the bleeding, that's the main thing in the backcountry or anytime, right? Like I got my wilderness CMT cert, it must have been 10 years ago now. And that was the main thing, right? It's stop the bleeding and like make sure that if someone like has a back or neck injury, they don't move like their spine, right? So as far as everything else, like sometimes as a guide I'll have bigger items, but a lot of those items like the public can't necessarily get. But I just get all my stuff off Amazon. Like I have at least two tourniquets usually in my bag, but the big items are those ones that I said. Everything else is like that emergency Mylar blanket, like that's a really big one. It's like tiny, it's like that big, it's like looks like foil. It'll save your life. So,
and there's some great kits too. Like if you're just starting to build out your first aid kit, you don't necessarily have to piece it together yourself. You can actually get built out first aid kits that come in different sizes and different needs. And I know that REI carries them. So just like a Google for that. We have, Vanessa has a question here and that's kind of related to this is, saying that they're fearful of blowing out a knee, which is not really something that you can address with your first aid kit, but do you have any thoughts on blown knees in the backcountry? I mean,
so one of the main things I always carry back there are ski straps. Like I always have at least 4 ski straps with me because if you do break a leg, like which is a big deal, right? Knee injuries are obviously a big deal too, but breaking a leg, right? You want to stabilize that leg, right? So a pole next to your leg and then the ski straps wrapped around your leg, around the pole, right? So it stays straight. So that is honestly one of the best things to have. Those ski straps are great and you use them. I use them as well when I'm touring, like strapping my tops of my skis together. Like if my skis are on my backpack on the sides of the skis, I strap the top of the skis together with the ski strap. It just makes it a lot easier. And then having those ski straps as well in certain situations when you want to strap them to your skis, like your poles to your skis. I didn't start using them a bunch until I did quite a bit of heli skiing and I realized how much we use them doing that. And in backcountry, like in a lot of situations, they are very useful and for first aid as well. And I see someone also said, if you have access to narcotics or NSAIDs as well, obviously, if you have those things you can have them. I, as a coach guide, I'm not allowed to give them to people, so I keep them for myself. But you can obviously, it's always a good idea to have like Advil, Tylenol with you, to, or with your friends. Obviously you can give it to each other, but I can't give that to anybody.
Before we keep going, I know Jessica had a question about beacon recommendations, and Shannon is going to talk a bit more about gear in just a moment, although, we'll just hold on a moment and we'll get to it.
Thanks, Catherine. You beat me to it. That's exactly what I was going to say. Awesome facilitation. All right, Shannon, you want to move into your next topic around avalanche education?
Yeah, for sure. So this is obvious. Avalanche education is good for everybody. I mean, even myself, like I do this every single year. Whether it's an online course, or one of my friends is actually an area instructor. So she just kind of basically takes me through courses. We go out and do it together. It's super important to keep on top of this. And it's not just taking courses, but going out and obviously practicing, everything you learn. So as far as in-person stuff, the American Avalanche Institute and ARI are the two top ones that I'm familiar with. There are obviously other ones out there, but those are the big ones. They're in person, like I said. They offer all different levels of avalanche courses. Something to keep in mind is that a lot of these avalanche courses are going to give you knowledge about avalanche situations in the backcountry. They aren't necessarily going to give you the tools you need to do a lot of the things you're going to need to do in the backcountry besides deal with avalanches, if that makes sense. So go into those knowing you're going to learn a lot about avalanches and dangerous situations that could occur in the backcountry. But that you still might need to learn from somebody else some of the other skills you might need that'll help you when you are actually in the backcountry with your friends or with your family members. There's also some good online, there's a really good new online course you can take by IFMGA guide Mark Smiley that was released last year. It's called Mountain Sense. I bet Jen will probably put a link to that in the comments. It's really great. Obviously, nothing is going to be as good as in person, but I mean, I got my MBA online through Cal State. If you're a good online learner, like this could be for you, right? Like, doesn't mean you shouldn't go out and do the things that you need to do in person, like on snow. But if you learn really well virtually, like it's a really, really, really good program. He did a really great job. And then obviously educating yourself with how to look at avalanche forecasts and to figure out what everything means. NWAC, so Northwest Weather and Avalanche Center, I check NWAC every single day before mostly twice a day actually when I'm going to the backcountry, because they actually update very early in the morning and then they do another afternoon update as well. Avalanche Canada, if you're in Canada, and then avalanche.org. Those are the big ones that I've used. Like I said, NWAC is huge. They do a really good job. They have local people to all the local ski areas and backcountry terrain that actually go out there on the snow and check conditions, and they actually get trip intel and beta from people that have actually gone out there and been on the terrain. So it's a really, really, really great organization. Those are the places that I recommend to, get educated and learn about avalanche situations and how to deal with them. But honestly, practice is the only way you're going to get efficient and confident in using your beacon, probe, and shovel. Like, you need to practice, and not just, I'm going to go out and practice one day and I'm going to be great at it. Like, okay, cool, but practice a lot. Like, practice as your life depends on it, because it does, or your friends or your husband or whoever, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, whoever you're with, that person's life could depend on you being able to use your beacon and your shovel and your probe properly, quickly, efficiently, confidently. Those are the three things that you need to be able to do with those items before you even take one step into the backcountry. there's a lot of people that I've like met through like Facebook groups that just are interested in the backcountry, or maybe they're into the backcountry, and they'll meet up and do these, they'll hide a beacon, someone will hide a beacon, and then you have to all find it, you know. Or you can practice with friends. And some local ski areas, I know Schweitzer, we do our cat skiing trips there. They actually have an area that they have them hidden where you can go practice all the time, and they switch them up, they move them all the time. So you can go practice your beacon skills like every week, and someone's moved it, which is how often you should practice it if you're going to be out there. And yeah, like I said, don't stop practicing throughout the season. Just because you practiced in the beginning of the season and you didn't have to use it the whole season doesn't mean you shouldn't practice. Okay. The better you are at it, the more you do it, it's going to be really, 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 really important. Okay. It's the most important part of the entire backcountry experience, is being able to use your gear. Are there any questions about, I'm going to talk about certain gear items down below, but as far as the stuff I just talked about, I mean, obviously, like at the avalanche course, you're going to learn how to use your beacon. You're going to learn how to use your probe and how to properly use your shovel. And by that, that might sound stupid if you haven't taken a class, but there is a proper way to shovel snow out when you are trying to dig someone out. Okay. These are all really important things, which is why I always recommend somebody taking a course, an avalanche course, before they go in the backcountry.
I think that's a really good point, Shannon, because there's definitely getting into the backcountry. There's so many barriers because of the financial side of it, but taking that course really isn't something that you should think, oh, well, I don't need that to get out.
Yeah.
It's a tool, right? Like that information is really important tool. Does anybody have any questions for Shannon on the education side? Or are we ready to move on to the next part?
I saw that Vanessa put the beacon parks. That's what I was talking about, by how some ski areas do have them hidden, like Schweitzer. That is, I guess, their beacon park. So, which is pretty rad that certain places have that. I wish mine did. I think I'm gonna make one this year.
I think you can go ahead and move on to the next topic.
Cool. So like I was saying before about learning, like avalanche courses are great, right? But they're not going to get the skills you need to actually learn how to use your skins and your bindings and all that fun stuff, right? So there are people that teach clinics for that. My husband and I teach an intro to backcountry clinic. We teach them all over the Northwest, because I actually had one of my gals that I've coached for the last few years. She contacted me because she was like, yeah, I did this mountaineering course. It was an intro to backcountry. And I showed up and they like took off up the road and didn't tell me how to use anything. And I was like, what? You know what I mean? Like, so that's what we do. We teach you how to properly use all your equipment. We give you tips on what equipment to have. A lot of stuff I went over today, and I'm going over today. We actually teach you how to do those things and show you all those things so that you actually are genuinely prepared to go out in the backcountry. We don't offer like ARI certifications or anything, but we definitely give you guys tips and skills and knowledge that we have learned over the many years that my husband and I have been in the backcountry, filming and skiing and shooting photos and all that fun stuff. So just keep in mind, there are people out there that offer stuff in your area. I hope there is someone in your area. If not, reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to like get on a video call with you and like show you how to like do your bindings and take your skins off in the wind and stuff. Cause there's some really great tips that like will be awesome and super helpful for you guys out in the backcountry. So as far as, I gotta pull this up really quick. I sent them more info than I actually wrote down. So goal setting and trip planning. So you wanna really know the terrain you're getting into before you go into it, right? Like you don't wanna just like be like, oh, that looks like a really cool, like pretty spot out there. We're just gonna head out there. So my advice is either to go with somebody. I usually almost always go with somebody who's been there, or go with somebody who has the knowledge to look at maps and read them properly and know exactly what you guys are getting into as much as you possibly can before you go. Get intel from websites, from other skiers, like always check the avalanche forecast and the weather forecast in your area prior to heading out multiple times. And once you're actually out there, you need to also check the snowpack. Like you can't just say, oh, the forecast said that the avalanche conditions were low today, so we should be good. Like, okay, cool. But you know what I mean? Like you are there, you should check the snowpack before you actually start skiing downhill. Okay. There's been many a time we've gone out, we've gotten on top of a face, we've checked the snowpack, and we have skied right back down the way we came up because our lives are way more important than a few powder turns. Okay. And now that we have kids, like that's even more of a real deal, right? So like always, like I said, always check the weather reports. Also keep in mind of wind. Wind is a huge factor in the backcountry, and it really does weird things with snow that most people wouldn't even really think about unless you've been out there in it. And not only can it affect the snow, but it can affect the temperature. So you, as the person out there ski touring, are going to get sweaty going up the hill, right? And then you're at the top and be like, oh, I'm all sweaty. Okay. And then the wind picks up. Now you're cold and wet, right? Because you've been ski touring up the hill. So keep in mind, wind can be a big risk factor for many reasons beyond, just the fact it's cold, but it also can affect the snow. And keep in mind also that as the day continues, obviously days are short in the winter, right? So even if it's a really warm bluebird day, once that sun goes down beyond the mountain, and it might go down behind the mountain quicker where you are in the backcountry, right? Than it would normally on the ski hill, it's going to be really cold. So you need to be prepared for that, and also be prepared for like maybe the ski tour out is going to be in the dark. Bring a headlamp. Always have a headlamp. I will repeat this. Always have a headlamp. My first date with my husband, this is really funny and really dumb because we both had been in the backcountry a ton of times. We went out ski touring at Mount Baker and we totally got cliffed out because it was early season and had to hike back up to the very top and ski down in the pitch black dark. We had one headlamp between the 5 people in our group. It was awesome. So thankfully, we ended up running into 2 or 3 other people with extra headlamps that saved us. But it was quite hilarious, but very stupid. Okay, so always have a headlamp, at least one, and make sure that you have extra batteries. Believe me, it could save your life. And then always get intel from other skiers, like I said in the beginning, because you want to not only ask them about how it was for them, but ask them how the conditions were. If the conditions changed, what kind of a day it was, how the snow was, if there was any, big rocks that you should worry about, or how was it at the very end? Did it get really tight in the trees? Was it easy to get out of? Any intel you can get from experienced backcountry skiers is really going to help you figure out where you want to go, what you want to do. And actually, it's going to help you figure out if you are physically and mentally ready to actually do that trip. Because at the end of the day, just because you want to go do it doesn't mean you're ready, right? It's better to take little baby steps and live to ski another day than go out there and like scare you the crap out of yourself and then be terrified of like going back out there again. So any questions on that section before I move into like the gear portion of everything? Let me look at my chat.
There aren't any questions in chat.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay, cool. So moving forward. So someone asked before about beacon probe. There is no best beacon or probe. Okay, I've used many. Every time I've gone to a different ski, heli ski or cat ski place, they always make you use their beacons, which kind of doesn't make sense to me in a way because you don't really know how to use it, right? Because it's new to you and it's not the one you use all the time. So the best beacon's the one that you can use efficiently and confidently and quickly. That is the best beacon. There are some great beacons out there. I don't have a personal favorite. The one I have used, it's like 5 or 6 years old. I honestly can't even tell you the brand of it because most of the time I'm out skiing, and I'm obviously using it, but most of the time when I'm out shooting and stuff, I am with another company, like a backcountry heli ski company, and I'm using their equipment. But I've become so good at all these other beacons now that every time we go somewhere, I always ask them beforehand, okay, what beacon am I going to use on this trip? And I go find somebody with that beacon and I practice it for a week straight beforehand so that I'm good at it and I'm proficient at it. Because to me, it's more important that I'm proficient at what I'm using than, oh, I'm just going to use this and hope nothing happens because I'm with guides. Okay. So find a probe you like or a beacon you like, and same with a probe. The probes, there's different lengths of them. Okay. So depending on your snowpack of where you live, like we have Catherine that's on the East Coast now. The snowpack probably isn't going to be as deep as it can be over on the West Coast. So we need longer probes, right? Because the probe is what you probe down for to try to find where, touch the person. Okay. So, which is where you're going to dig. You need to be able to get your probe together quickly. And in the beginning, you're like, it's going to be like this huge, wonky thing. But once you need to practice getting it together quickly and being able to use it quickly. Okay. So I honestly can't tell you, I've used a K2 probe for years. I love it. I've used a K2 shovel for years. I love them. Honestly, I use them. I started using them because I was skiing for them like I am now, and I became proficient at them. So I never used anything else all the time. That is what I use, and I love them. And they're always in my bag, even when I'm skiing in bounds and I'm coaching, okay? Because avalanches can happen in bounds. That has been happening more frequently in the Northwest over the past few years than it's ever happened. So just be aware of that. Make sure there's extra batteries in your bag in case you need them. This is for your beacon and your headlamp or anything else you might need. Check your beacon battery before you leave to go to the mountain to go in the backcountry every time. Okay. I don't know, I don't know if Catherine or Jen, if you remember what normally they say, don't go under, like, I think when we're heli skiing, they say, oh, if it's under 15%, they make us change the battery. I changed that battery at 50. I'm like, 50% change.
I've heard, I change it. Mine goes to 4 bars. And literally if it shows 3 bars, I change the batteries. And I've heard 70%. I don't know. There's a lot of I'm not going to screw around.
Yeah,
just
it's a big deal. So I always have extra batteries in my bag, no matter what. That will, if mine are AAA batteries, I always have at least 6 extra batteries in my bag always. And that's not just for me, it's for people in my group, right? Because if their beacon doesn't work, the whole life-saving thing doesn't work, right? It doesn't work if one person's beacon is not on. Okay, so make sure your shovel and probe, like I said, are in good working order, which means they go together, they work really well. That shovel needs to be a heavy duty shovel. It needs to be an actual backcountry shovel, not just some crappy plastic shovel you found at Costco that, you can shovel snow with. Like, you need to be able to attack the hard snow that an avalanche creates, right? So make sure that they're both in really good working order before you head out. Make sure they are accessible on your backpack, like quickly accessible, not like, oh, my probe is shoved in the bottom of my bag under every layer. No, it needs to be extremely accessible quickly in case you need them. Okay. Layers for touring and extra gear. So I always like to have a trucker hat with me, because my first thing I do when I start touring uphill is if it's going to be a long tour, I know I'm going to get warm, I take my helmet off and I put it on the back. I always have a helmet on and put it on the back of my backpack. I put my goggles away because I always get sweaty in them and then they always fog up, right? So I have sunglasses. I put my trucker hat on, my sunglasses on. I take my first at least 1 or 2 layers off because I know I'm going to start sweating. Okay. And I always have sunscreen with me. I carry an extra base layer. The main reason I do that is because I usually do get sweaty. And if you do get sweaty, you don't want to get cold then. So I have that in case I get sweaty and cold, so I can take that sweaty layer off, put a dry layer back on, and then layer up again, right? So my layers for touring are, I wear like a technical tank top, I wear a wool like long sleeve base layer. Sometimes a lot of times I'll have one, or even a technical one that's got like a hood on it that's like sun, like UPF, so it'll help with the sun protection. Then I have a like a puffy, like a down puffy jacket, like usually a really pretty thin one, but a really, really warm one. And then I have my Gore-Tex shell, like my 3 layer waterproof shell to go over the top, right? So that way I have all these different layers. And then I have an extra layer, obviously, like I said, when I get wet from sweating. I always carry extra goggle lenses with me, or even an extra pair of goggles, because every time I don't, I have a yard sale and then I can't see out of my goggles, right? Because when you fall in the powder and you get snow in your goggles and they get wet, it's all foggy. So, and I like to, when I'm in the backcountry, I like to hit pillows and stuff. And, you know, and like I said, it just goes every single time I don't have them, I need them. So that's something I've started to always carry. And then I always have an extra pair. I have a pair of mittens. So I usually start with like gloves with liners underneath. And then I always carry a pair of mittens in my bag because my little hands get cold because I'm a photographer. So I always have my hands out of my gloves. But those little liners, I really like them. The kind ones are the ones I usually wear just because they're inexpensive and I actually really like them. They do a good job with them. I usually tour with them on days that are a little warm because then my hands don't get super hot because I get little sweaty hands. Yeah. And then, okay, before I move on to talking about touring skis, does anyone have any questions about gear?
So Sarah had a question in the chat. Do beacons need to be replaced on any schedule apart from the batteries? So do you need to replace beacons?
I mean, if you have one that's like 15 or 20 years old, I'd say probably need to get a new one, right? Because new technology is like, I'm going to get a new one this year just because the technology has changed so that it's actually easier to find somebody with the new beacons versus a lot of the older beacons. So I would just say that if you look into it and it's been a long enough time that the technology's changed to where it's easier to find somebody with a newer beacon, I would say it's definitely worth buying a new beacon.
Also, something to consider is just the amount you're using it and how you're handling it. Because yeah, like Shannon said, really a lot of the beacons out there these days, they're great. And I think it's like the 2 versus 3 antenna is the main point of like, you want to be on that 3 antenna. It's just going to find people easier. It's going to be more reliable. But if you have dropped or thrown, you know, if your beacon has been through the ringer intentionally or not, it might be time to consider replacing it or, you know, contact the manufacturer and just make sure that it's doing okay. Because I have definitely heard of some failures happening when they get hit or dropped, or I don't know what else people do with beacons, but something to think about.
Yeah, that's a super good point. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about skis. Something that I have actually had a lot of people in my clinics come to me about. They come to me with these touring skis that they've been sold by a shop, and they're almost always very, very light, and you know, they were told that, oh, these are going to be really, really good for touring because they're super light and they're going to be really easy to go uphill. Okay, well, that's good. But are you going in the backcountry to go uphill, or are you going in the backcountry to shred down the hill? Because one of the things that I have learned, I've helped K2 for years now, like create their skis. And I've skied on, like, I don't know, lots of ski brands, like tons, more than I can count. Okay. I've tested them all. I've loved a lot of them. I've hated a lot of them, but I will just say this. When I put these people that are skiing not confidently in my clinics, when I put them I see them skiing on these touring skis that are very light, their confidence is low. They're in the back seat. They can't ski hard snow. They can't ski powder very well. They basically do okay on soft groomers. Like they're okay, right? When I put them on a ski that's a heavier ski that rewards you when you're forward, that is meant to actually ski, crud, powder, ice, everything, they are 5 times the skier they were on the other ski. Okay. So yes, touring skis are great that they're light and they're great to go uphill. But my opinion is I don't mind if I have an extra little weight under my feet going uphill, because that just means I'm going to get a better workout. Because I want to ski that I love on the downhill. I want to ski that I can go like do whatever I want. If I want to hit that pillow or that cliff, I'll hit it. If I want to just shred pow, I'll hit it. If I get stuck in a crappy situation that I need to do a kick turn or I need to ski icy moguls or get around rocks, I want to ski that I am super confident on and that makes me a better skier. Because I don't really, at the end of the day, the uphill doesn't matter to me. The downhill is why I'm out there. So my biggest thing is that, find a ski that you love, that you are confident skiing on the downhill in difficult situations and in fun situations, and put a backcountry touring binding on that and go have fun. Because this thought of like, oh, I need a touring ski. Okay, no, you really don't. Like I ski on a inbound ski with a pin binding and I love them. Like, and I ski those inbounds too. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I would just prefer, in my opinion, I want my women and guys and everyone in between, I want them on a ski that they can shred on the best that they can possibly shred on in those situations. Because like I said, they could be life or death, and I want them to be able to get out of the situation if they need to. So that's my advice on touring skis. Try skis out, go to demo days, rent a ski for a day there's a lot of resorts that let you rent a ski for a day. Try them out on a day that is good condition, try them out a day when it's bad condition. And if it's bad conditions, go ski that mogul run, go ski that crud. Like that's the only way you're going to know if you really love that ski. Because if you just love it on like freshly groomed snow, like that's like 99% of the skis out there. Right. So, yeah. And then as far as getting prepped for winter, I know that these ladies have a really good next person's coming up talking about, how to get in shape for winter and all that jazz. But, I'll have Jen put in a link. I wrote an article about how to just kind of get prepped for winter sports, I don't know if you guys have heard of Sensi Graves swimwear. She makes these really beautiful bikinis and swimsuits in Oregon. She's out of Hood River. She's a rad chick. She's a pro kiteboarder and a really good friend. And it's on their website. So she'll put that up there if you guys want to check that out. It's got some good tips and tricks for you guys and gals.
And her swimsuits are cute as fuck. I have one. Sensi's fantastic. I'm friends with her too. And
I know, right?
Yeah, she's got super cute swimsuits. But yeah, she's incredible. I just want to say too, Shannon, I appreciate everything you said about the skis and for people to know that like you 100% can demo skis at a resort. Like you don't need to take skis into the backcountry to demo them.
Yeah.
Like it's not, and we actually kind of dissuade people from doing that at Coalition. We tell people like take our skis and go to the resort and like ski hard and ski a bunch of stuff to really understand what the ski is like. So yeah, thanks for saying all that. That was really good.
Yeah. So are there any other questions?
Yeah, so we've got about 5 minutes left. Looks like there's some great comments. Thanks, Nicole and Sarah, for sharing that. Does anybody have, in the last few minutes, anybody have any questions about anything for Shannon? Anything you want to say? Also, Shannon, do you mind right now, while people are maybe thinking about questions, do you mind putting links to all of your stuff in the chat so that everybody can get that if they want to be able to follow up with you? If you could put your website, yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and I will chime in that Shannon is kind of just a beast when it comes to like fitness, and like I don't run or do much of that stuff. But like even just following Shannon on Instagram is enough to make me think about it. And yeah, if I'm definitely going to be checking out that article and reading it and probably taking all of the tips to heart, because if it works for her, it's obviously doing something right. So I definitely think just check her out online, check out her business. If anyone is like local to her, I know Shannon, you have courses in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, or?
Yeah, so we have we coach for this year. We're coaching, we're doing clinics at White Pass, Mission Ridge, Alpental, and then we're doing some at Schweitzer this year as well. We usually we do coached cat skiing trips at Schweitzer. We actually have a few spots left in one of our trips, if anyone's interested. But that in between our cat skiing trips this year, we're doing 3 days of skiing clinics at Schweitzer.
Nice.
And
are your courses open to snowboarders as well?
They are not. I don't snowboard. My husband does, but he's been asked a bunch of times, and he's like, no, we don't have time. We also teach ski private. White Pass allows us to teach private ski lessons as well. But our biggest thing is that we don't. We only teach intermediate through expert level. We do not teach beginners, because that is obviously the bread and butter of the ski resorts, and we do not like to compete with them. We like to work with them. So so that's like our jam.
Do you, since you don't do clinics for split boarders, is there anyone who you would recommend?
So we allow split boarders at our intro to backcountry clinics, because that's more of like a backcountry focused clinic, and they definitely work together on that. I don't know anybody that teaches snowboarding. I don't really know anybody else that is offering beyond like what the ski resorts offer. I know it's been 4 years of me working with ski resorts to like get this to go, to where they've realized that like, hey, we're bringing people to you, we're working with you, we're not working against you. I would love if some snowboarders started doing that, because I think there's a big market for it. So
yeah. But just to be clear, your intro to backcountry, that course that you do, that's open to all.
Yes.
To everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good, because Marty had a question. So
Marty, that's for you.
Yeah. So there we go. Okay, y'all, we have 2 minutes left. Vanessa, 100%. Why can't all my Zoom? I don't know. I feel like I agree with you. Shannon, is there anything that you'd like to say to close us out? Or Catherine, do you have anything that you'd like to say before we wrap up tonight?
Well, I just want to say that, I think that I think it's really important to not sell ourselves short, right? Like set big goals. Like Catherine was saying, I'm an ultra runner. Like if you would have told me 4 years ago I was gonna go run, I would run 50 miles in a day, I would have been like, I'd never do that. Like it's all about baby steps. And if you want to do something, put in the time, put in the effort, and believe in yourself and make it happen. Like you can do anything you set your mind to and your heart to, but you just got to take the first step and just think of it as baby steps, right? Because if you think of the whole picture, it's a lot scarier and harder to accomplish than just thinking of it as baby steps.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, there's so much to say about backcountry skiing and splitboarding, but in all, I think just keep reminding yourself why you're out there. And I mean, at least speaking for myself, it's all about just being outside and having fun and spending time with people that I love. So I think sometimes you can get caught up in the moment, or how rad you can get, or I don't know, everyone's heads work differently, but just reminding yourself that we're all pretty lucky to be able to partake in this awesome sport and explore the natural lands around us. So yeah, just trying to stay safe and have a good time.
Thanks, Catherine. And I just posted in the chat, this is actually one of our newest ambassadors to Coalition. She is doing a roundup of scholarships on her Instagram every week. So that, what I just posted, give her a follow. It's a fantastic resource there. And Shannon, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing with us. I feel super inspired to do all the things that, like, I'm going to check all my batteries, I'm going to practice, I'm going to get like, I feel real, and it's November 3rd, but I feel like I really needed to hear everything you had to say. So thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And Catherine, as always, thanks for just being an outstanding partner in everything that we do. So everyone, thank you for being here. And we will put this recording, I'll put it on the Clubhouse. And then just, mark your calendars, first Wednesday of every month at 5 o'clock Pacific. We will be hosting this, and you'll see the event for the next one in about 2 weeks. And feel free to reach out to any of us in the Clubhouse if you have any questions, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.